From blueprints to booming businesses, from groundbreaking to grand openings, this is Beyond the Blueprint. Join host Brad Howard as he takes you behind the scenes of growth and development in Mooresville, Lake Norman, and beyond. We're talking with the decision makers, the planners, the visionaries shaping our communities, giving exclusive insight into what happens before, during, and after projects that define our region. The future is being built right now. Let's go beyond the blueprint.
Good Friday afternoon. Thank you to those tuning in on the radio on 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM, on social media, on WSICnews.com, and on demand with WSIC News app. From blueprints to booming businesses, this is Beyond the Blueprint, and I'm your host, Brad Howard. Today's show, we are joined by Carty, who wears multiple hats in our community. Carty is the Mooresville area captain. She's also a member of the Iredell County GOP Executive Committee. We will be discussing politics, the real estate market, market trends, community expertise, the 2025 municipal elections that are happening now, GOP leadership, and how do you get involved, and how do we shape the future for Harmony, Statesville, Troutman, Mooresville, and the greater Lake Norman region. So, Karen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Brad, for having me.
You know, wearing a lot of hats, we typically start out the show with trying to find out who you are. So tell us, who is Karen Carty, and let's go back to the beginning. How did you get to Mooresville and Iredell County?
I came to Iredell County 36 years ago with two small children, and I love Iredell County. Believe it's a place where people have good values, and for me, it's all about the people, the values, much more than some glitzy, high-dollar place to live. It's just a wonderful county. It's actually a little jewel. I appreciate it.
Right, and you've been here for what, 19-ish years?
Well, I've been here 36 years.
Oh, 36 years, that's right.
But I've been involved with the Republican Party for about 20 years.
Okay, that was where I had the data down.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep. And I originally came from California, which was really different when I was a child. It was much smaller. I came from a small town, which was Laguna Beach, California. And it was just really a paradise when I was growing up there. And I've had a chance to see what happens when the values change. And I work hard here in Iredell County to make sure that doesn't happen here.
That's right. So we're going to talk about real estate and politics. So we'll weave a little bit of everything in together. We really got to know each other in politics long ago. And
yes, when you were running for county commission.
The first time.
Long
ago.
And what year was that, Brad?
Oh my gosh. Was it 2006?
Maybe.
2008, 2006. No, 6 or 8. It was in that window.
So it's a good long while ago.
Yeah, it's about 20 years. Yeah. So we're getting old.
What I saw in you then is still there. You're really a good community leader and a person with a great vision for the county.
Yeah. So going back to who you are in the real estate. So you came from Laguna Beach, California. You're here now in Iredell County. That had to be a change, but you were from a small town. So coming from small town California you came to Troutman?
Troutman, North, right. Yes. And I would say the town was probably about the same size as what Laguna was.
Where Laguna was at the time.
Yeah, at the time.
And things have changed, especially in the last few years, because, we're going to get into more talking about growth, development, the impacts that it has. What do you see as the biggest change that's happened since you've been here?
Well, a lot of people are moving here. They've all figured out what I already knew, which is it's a great place to live. And I don't mind the growth so much, but it's happening awful fast right now.
Well, especially in Troutman.
I mean, people say, well, you're in realty, so, don't you like it? And I say, well, just because I'm in realty doesn't mean I want every last square inch of the place to be built on. You know, you got to conserve.
It's a balance. It's a balance.
It's a balance for sure.
Right. So, looking at that, seeing what you saw where you moved from and to the difference here, what do you see the differences between the different towns in the county? Because we're going to focus, the audience here is all of Lake Norman and a little and beyond. But, if you're going in the real estate, put your real estate hat on right now, and let's talk about the differences between the residential real estate market you see in Mooresville, Troutman, Statesville, Harmony, and then unincorporated areas of Iredell County. What do you see as the biggest differentiators? And from your clients, what do you see happening?
Well, I would say there's movement from the busier areas, the more crowded areas like Mooresville and Troutman, up toward the north of the county into the more rural areas. When I list property up in the further north, I find that it's real desirable. Everybody wants that. They want to. It's
God's country up there.
Yeah, they want to get out. And of course, there's some resistance in the northern end because people have had farms there for generations, and there's a lot of beautiful open land, and they don't want to see it turn into a city. So, again, there's a balance.
So in the transition there, do you find that, as growth creeps up, the 77 corridor, each town is unique and different, and there's different charm in every town. Mm-hmm. What do you see the people, where are most of your clients looking now? I know you said they're looking a little further north. Do you see them wanting townhomes, residential, single family, more rural land? I'm just trying to understand the different market and where are they coming from?
So I think the people...
You didn't bring them all from California.
No.
Okay.
No. And in fact, I think Californians tend to settle in the western states. We have some of them here, but they're not coming here a whole lot. They tend to migrate to the states closer to them. And a lot of people are leaving California as they're leaving New York and New Jersey. I think the people from up north, New York and New Jersey, are still, they're finding it more rural than where they're coming from, even in Mooresville or even Huntersville or Cornelius, Troutman. So those people from the bigger cities tend to go into the southern end of our county. And then people that have been here a while, locals or maybe people who settled here 30 years ago, they're tending to move north to get out of those crowded areas.
Get out of the congestion and have, a little slower pace. Yeah, I get it.
They want acreage. They'll tell me, I want at least an acre. I want 2 acres. Curious thing is, there are not many 2-acre parcels. You're either going to buy a big piece of land or you're going to be in a community. You might be somewhere with maybe 3/4 of an acre or half an acre, but it's hard to find those little, don't you find that true?
I do. So
the little 2 to 3 acre parcels, that's probably a market niche.
It is.
That you could fill.
We can talk about that offline. Absolutely. Before we go into the break, I want to tease with, one, we're going to get more into the economics of everything. Is what have you seen with interest rates? How has that impacted your business? I know interest rates are coming down, or what are you seeing the impact?
It's busier since the rates have started to come down for sure. And I think that the rates were a big influence on why the market slowed. It slowed right down from that big competitive boom. Time period, boom.
Where you had the coming soon and off the market before it hit the market.
Yeah, I mean, and where you had 22 offers on a property within a couple of days. That's over.
All right, and we'll pause right there for the break, and we'll be right back with Karen Carty on Beyond the Blueprint. And we're back. I'm Brad Howard. This is Beyond the Blueprint. We are joined by Karen Carty with the Carty Team Real Estate and active member of the Iredell GOP. We're talking about real estate and politics. So we just talked about interest rates impacting the market. Other things, what are you seeing with buyers and sellers? Is there more inventory coming to market now, less inventory? What do you see as the trends?
Well, with interest rates dropping, people are starting to see that they can put their house on the market and go somewhere. I think when interest rates were at their peak, people thought, well, I don't want to move because I don't want to pay that on my new house. So yeah, there's more inventory. There's more inventory. But on the negative side, I would say people, they got used to those prices rising. And in general, I think all the sellers that are approaching me tend to want, more for their property than it might be worth. Prices have softened a little bit. Sometimes you just have to let people try for a price that you can see is not really gonna work out.
Yeah, and when the buyers are coming in and the sellers too, when I get a couple important things to consider, would be infrastructure concerns, traffic, schools,
right?
Other issues, supply and demand too. We're talking about Troutman just now, but Mooresville was named one of the fastest growing suburbs in the country, and then Troutman has had explosive growth as well. And Troutman also, I believe, has a 30-month building moratorium in place. So on a supply and demand side, and then on infrastructure, schools, what do you see now that all of these are starting to come together? At the same time, you see rates coming down. Do you have any insight into the future there or what you're seeing?
Well, I wish I had a crystal ball. But I do think there's resistance to so much development now, and I'm not, surprised about the moratorium in Troutman. They need it. They've got to regroup and figure out what to do with sewer capacity. You can't just keep building, 100 houses at a time. And there's plenty of new homes. Have you noticed, Brad, that with the new construction, they're really starting to solicit agents. They're really calling. We got calls from a couple of the big builds from their sales agents talking about how they want to work with agents. They're giving a bonus. Maybe they're giving a $5,000 bonus on sales. And that tells me that it's slowing down with the new build.
With the new build?
Mm-hmm. I think so. What do you think?
And one thing that is new to this market, it's new to the entire market, but you're starting to see a larger foothold in this region with it, is build-to-rent communities.
Yeah.
So how do you think that is impacting pricing or I guess the market in general? I mean, do you think that the people maybe, it has a lot of benefits. It's basically, the way we describe it is it's like an apartment complex that's deconstructed into single family. So it's all common maintenance and everything else. What you see a lot of folks coming to town that are doing that on the interim while they look for a place.
I think they're settling there, and there's one of those really close to where I live. And when it was going up, I have to be honest, my heart sank. And let me just shift over into politics a little bit, because I think prices have gotten so high for homes, and wages, we know, did not grow for decades. Bringing in lots of new people into the country that were doing a lot of jobs that they say Americans won't do, but the effect is it keeps wages low. And I really feel bad about the fact that young people can't buy a home like they could in my generation. They could form a household, buy a home, and get that foothold. And I don't think that's as easy to do now. I think it's actually really hard. And I've noticed some of the people that are buying, I had a listing in the Troutman area last year where the buyers were coming from another state, and they were in their 50s, and it was their first home. And I really kind of hate to see that. I feel like those single family for rent whole development is, to me, it's not a positive.
All right. Well, on a transition there from real estate, so all the issues with infrastructure, schools, and everything else we've talked about. That's a good segue, I think, into politics. So all of the communities, everything that is happening, that people see happening, is approved at the municipal level. And in odd years, this is 2025, we have a couple municipal elections races going on. So if we want to take your real estate hat off now and put your political hat back on, where do we want to start? Do you want to start in Statesville, or we'll just start there? So we'll start in Statesville and go through what do we see as the top issues, or do you want to go from the whole county and work out?
So I just want to take a broad brush with politics. Yes, we have municipal elections right now in Statesville, Mooresville, Troutman, and even the smaller towns. But in general, I've been working in Republican politics for probably 20 years in the county. And my goal is always to get more conservative candidates into these positions. And that's where I stand right now on the municipal elections also. We have several good candidates running at large, and for mayor in Statesville, mayor in Mooresville. Please, folks who are in these towns, go in and vote. And I'm not just going to say, vote, it doesn't matter how you vote, because to me, it does matter how you vote. And I would like to see people vote conservative or Republican, because those are the philosophies that have worked for this country since it was founded. They work for every group, every ethnicity. They work for every economic group. And that's what you need to vote for, because it's smaller government and more individual freedom.
And that's a good point just on voting in general, because I believe the municipal turnout here locally for the different races is around 8-9%.
It's very low.
It's very low, very low. And, the projects, a lot of people, tend to blame the local politicians that are currently in office for things that they see happening. And the reason for this show is to help people understand how long it takes between the time that you see, most people see that building coming out of the ground, not realizing that it happened 5, 6, 7 years before. And or maybe sooner, but the idea behind the larger scale development, the road, we've talked about this before on the show. I mean, like road projects, a lot of people focused on Highway 150, and the first mention of widening Highway 150 was in 1987. So, and obviously this is
right before we came.
This is 2025, and then formally it's been on the STIP and it gets delayed. There's no funding. There's no this, no that. And it's on, and that's the easiest example to use when we're talking and trying to explain things is, a lot of that development that happened on Highway 150 was approved, and they were promised, the local political electeds were promised that money from the state, that road project would be delivered on this date. But things happen. We have recessions. The state is short on funding. We have storms like Helene that happen. Everything gets pushed out on a lot of projects. But yet those projects that were approved got built, and the road got delayed. And, if it weren't for, some of our current local elected leadership at both the municipal level and the state level, there were some nuances that we talked about in a couple shows back that if they weren't there to fight for us, we would have not had that money, and 150 would be a project happening next year, possibly. Mm-hmm. So when you go into the polls, you need to know that those folks fight for us. So, and make sure you do vote, because if we have 8 or 9% turnout and you go to complain, the first question should be did you vote? And if you said, well, no, I voted in the presidential election, well, that didn't affect those projects that were getting approved or not approved, in your local backyard. So that's where we need to help people learn how to get engaged, how to get involved.
And politics starts locally.
And everything is local. And as Justin Kazepa says, it's always hyper-local.
Yeah.
Hyper local.
Yeah.
So looking at everything from that lens, what and Karen was one of the people who drug me into everything. You got to do this, you have to do this, get involved here. So if you want to get involved, it's easy.
Yes, it's easy to get involved in local political groups. We've got, on the Republican side, there are 2 women's clubs. One is kind of based around Mooresville. The other one is a very long-standing club that I've been involved in for 20 years, and it's based around Statesville. But you can belong to either or both. You can also attend these clubs without belonging. It's a great place to meet local elected officials. You'll meet your commissioners over time. You'll meet mayors. You'll meet school board officials. It's a place where the citizenry can hold their elected officials accountable. It's where you actually meet and touch your elected officials. And then they have a chance to explain to you what's going on. If there's something you don't like, sometimes it's nothing to do with them. Sometimes it's other events or other pieces of the puzzle that they need to explain so that citizens can work on that. There's those clubs. There's men's clubs. There's also the executive Republican board that I sit on. Those meetings are open to the public. This is where the Republican Party of Iredell County decides what to do and tries to field good conservative candidates. We've done a lot of that in front of these municipal elections. It's very easy to get involved. I probably should give you a phone number to call. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, instead of sicking people on the chairman without his permission, I'll just give my phone number. It's 704-402-9370. And I can certainly direct you to a way to get involved with politics. And we need that. We need the citizens to be involved in their community. That's what makes a successful community.
And I think on top of that is to remind people that the election is, roughly a week and a few days away. So
early voting right now.
Early voting is right now. And if you need to, you can go to the Iredell County Board of Elections website. You can go to the county website. You can call Karen at her cell phone number she just gave you.
Yeah.
You can message us, find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, any of the social media platforms. We will get you to the right person on getting involved. But most importantly, early voting is happening now. So there is no excuse. You can't say I was busy on election day. You have early voting and you have the day of election to vote. So,
right.
Let's not make that 8%. Let's make our local voting average 50%. Let's everybody, your voice needs to be heard. You need to go vote. And we're going to use that as the segment, and we will be right back. This is Beyond the Blueprint. This is Brad Howard, and this is Beyond the Blueprint, and we are with Karen Carty. And coming back, we're talking about real estate and politics. We've transitioned from real estate to politics, talking about growth issues, schools, infrastructure, everything that makes a community great and can also create growing pains. So into the politics side, first question, you talked about being on the Republican executive board and being involved for so many years in the party. What is a Republican?
Yeah, so what is a Republican? With the mainstream media leaning Democratic, into the Democratic Party for decades, all you ever hear about Republicans is that they're negative people. They're homophobic, they're transphobic, they don't like women, they don't like Black people. All this is nonsense. It's not true, and it's actually slander. And I'm very glad to see people pushing back on this now, because it's not true. It's never been true. We have all kinds of people in the Republican Party. Everybody's welcome. And I would say what defines the Republican Party for me is a smaller government. And sometimes you say this to people and they say, oh, I don't want a world like that. What do you mean? No police, no fire, no libraries. It's not no government. It's smaller, limited government. If you look at why America achieved so much in this 200 or so years that we've been in existence, it's because we were able to unleash the energy, drive, and creativity of people like was really never before done in the history of the world. And the way you do that is with small government. Because when you have large government that controls every aspect of people's lives, all that creativity and individuality gets stifled. So for me, Republican government is smaller government where the individual keeps more of their money, fewer taxes. What do you think, Brad?
Well, I think it's a good balance. I think, when we're looking at it from a political and, I'll say political real estate side, when you're able to bring businesses in, you can help keep the taxes low because the businesses are paying a lot of the property taxes and subsidizing the residential growth. So, and then you look at the different types of residential growth, you need a good balance, a good blend, and then at the same time, you need to be cognizant that you aren't pricing your market and the people that live there and have made it successful, pricing them out of the market. So you can't just look at everything in a vacuum. You have to step back. And I think the political side is the same way. But going back to party politics, you get involved. What's a Republican? You and I know, what the process is and what everybody goes through. Let's step back and say, okay, I want to get involved. What does it mean to get involved? And we'll use, the Republican Party. So there's meetings, there's groups, there's a county convention, there's all these steps. So walk me through what it's like to say, hey, Karen, I'm going to call you. I want to get involved. What do you invite me to a club meeting first, and then what happens from there? How do I help make an impact on the community?
Okay, so really, politics all finally boils down to elections. A lot of people get excited about the presidential election. Let's just talk about a presidential election cycle. So what'll happen is if you become involved with one of these clubs or you start attending the meetings of the executive board, eventually, it all starts building up to elections. And we need literally hundreds of people to man a headquarters, for example. You might be asked to sit in a headquarters. Can you man the Mooresville headquarters for 4 hours on Thursday? And we'll have a rotating schedule of people. People will come into the headquarters. They want signs. They want information.
And these are all volunteers. These are not paid positions.
Yes, all volunteers.
That's very important to understand. These are people that genuinely want to better the community. And
yeah.
I won't steal your thunder.
No, it's okay. I look at it like at one point, I kind of had a vision that, how the military is all volunteer, people join the military.
Right.
This is kind of like that. It's people that, in a civic way or like a civilian corps, just feel led to try to help their community in politics. It's all volunteer. You never get paid. Well, of course, the military, you get paid, but this corps, you don't get paid. But it's almost like a calling. And I've tried to give it up several times. I get very busy. I have a family just like everybody. I have work. But I somehow can never let go of this because I just feel like it's so important to participate on this level, to keep our culture and our government at the roots of how it was formed. It's real important because it tries to it tries to get away from that all the time, don't you think?
Right. And two, if you don't want to get involved in, I mean, obviously Karen would love to have you involved, but if you don't want to get involved locally in the political party, there's also other ways to be involved in the election process, like the Board of Elections, volunteering at a poll to make sure, big words that were used a lot was election integrity.
Yes.
So can people can they feel that their votes are counted here, that that the election is secure? Go into that less from the political side, more towards the just the elections and the operational side of running an election.
Yeah, for running an election, I mean, the last presidential election, we had a whole election integrity team headed by a husband and wife who did a great job, and we had something like nearly 100 poll observers in and out of those polls. They were trained, they have to be approved, and they were watching, just making sure that there's no shenanigans in these polls. For example, you don't want to see an elderly person coming with someone else who is marking their ballot. That person needs to be marking their own ballot.
Right.
And you don't want to feel like people were just brought in there to vote a certain way and that someone else is making sure they vote a certain way. They need to vote their own conscience. And there are many other things you're watching for as a poll observer. There's that. There's handing out literature outside the poll, trying to solicit votes, making sure people understand who the conservative candidates are.
Yeah, and there's door knocking and, going and speaking on behalf of candidates at different events and, just
fundraising for candidates.
Fundraising is very important, right? On that same topic, before we go to the break here, I want to touch on something that you were very instrumental in, which is always the last few years, is the Reagan Day dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the Iredell County GOP, the largest fundraiser. Mm-hmm. And this last time you had General Flynn.
General Michael Flynn, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn came.
Was the keynote speaker.
Yeah, and he's, of course, very well known nationally. And we had a packed house. And
it was sold out.
It's our biggest fundraiser. And what do we do with that money? Well, that's the money that we open the headquarters with. We don't get money from the national party. No money comes to us. We have to make all of our own money, don't we, Brad?
Bootstrap it and earn every dollar.
Right.
Yep, every dollar. So, and that's, I think there's a big misconception out there is, there's no big, super PAC sending money to the county party.
Yeah. I've had volunteers ask me, doesn't the Republican Party have hundreds and thousands of dollars? And I'll say, yes, but that's not us.
So everything that the Iredell GOP does is
we have to make locally. That money.
That's right. It has to be earned through events like the Reagan Day dinner or raffles or contributions through local folks. So it truly is a grassroots, grassroots,
and we use it wisely. It doesn't get thrown away. For example,
that wouldn't make us fiscal conservatives, would it?
No, it wouldn't. If we have a good school board candidate, somebody in the community that just wants to run, and you're asking them to run, it's pretty hard to say, and we're not going to help you at all with your expenses. You want to help them.
That's right.
With their expenses and their signs and so forth.
That's right. And that's actually a great transition point. And we're going to, when we come back from Beyond the Blueprint here in the next segment, we're going to dive a little deeper into that. So Brad Howard with Karen Carty will be right back. This is Brad Howard, and we're back Beyond the Blueprint with Karen Carty, Carty Real Estate, and the also Iredell GOP. We've been talking about real estate first, then we transitioned into politics. We talked about how there's some overlap there, but now we've been talking about getting involved, and we just ended up talking about the successful Reagan Day dinner that Karen has been the ringleader of.
Yeah.
So, and General
Because
Flynn,
no one else would do it.
I know, but you have done an amazing job and had an amazing program last year. And, it's just very impressive what you've done. So, on to that, candidates. The municipal elections are coming up, or they are. Early voting is happening now. The election is on November 4th, so there is no reason between now and then you can't take a few minutes out of your day, go to the Board of Elections, or go to in Mooresville, I believe, the War Memorial, and early vote. And if you can't do that over the next week, then take the time and go early vote, or go vote on election day.
Something we haven't said is that not everyone can vote in these elections.
The first thing is, do you pay tax in the city? If in one of these municipalities you pay property tax, you live in the district. The other way is if you have water and sewer, typically. So
I live in Troutman. I have a Troutman address, but I am not in the town of Troutman. Therefore, I cannot vote in the town of Troutman municipal election, nor can I vote in Statesville or Mooresville. You have to be within the city or town,
the corporate limits
to vote. So we're urging all the people to vote, but it's actually quite a much smaller voter base,
right,
that would vote in this election.
Right. So if you do live in a municipality in anywhere, not just in the county, but anywhere, go vote. So let's talk about the municipals are winding down, but the midterms are coming up next year. So if you have beef, issues, want to get involved, go to meetings, talk to people. And if you really want to get involved and try and make a difference, put your name on the ballot and start having dialogue with the people and make the change that you want to see. I mean, it's easy for everybody to sit back and complain about everything, but when you don't take the time to get engaged, get involved, understand all of the bigger picture of what's really happening, that's when change happens, is when you're truly engaged and you truly understand all the pieces. So you want to talk about midterms coming up, candidate recruitment. So if somebody says, oh my gosh, I want to get involved, call Karen. If you want to run for office, call Karen.
Yeah, I'll put you in touch with people. But I would say a good place to start would be maybe something like school board. People used to kind of brush off school board, but then we realized, didn't we, as a nation, that the school boards are very, very important. There's a lot of weird things going on in school boards in the big cities. There have been issues about pornographic books in the schools that parents have pushed back on. There was a national FBI that was labeling parents going to school board meetings as domestic terrorists. It's turning out that the school board is quite an important place to be. And if you have a vision, you care about the county, and you want to get involved, school board would be a good thing to think about. And you probably should speak to people in the party before you just jump on. Not that you need approval, but, we can help you to figure out, what you're doing with that.
Right. And back to the local politics. So school board races and judicial races are nonpartisan, correct? Or is it just
no?
Or are they partisan now?
I think they're partisan.
They're all partisan now. Okay.
Yeah. And
but regardless, get to know your candidate, know what they know what their beliefs are. Because who knew that position had so much impact until everyone saw what happened after COVID.
Yes, after COVID, people saw what happened, how important those school boards were. Besides that, the midterms are important. We'll have a senator being a national senator being elected. We'll have state races. We will not have a presidential candidate in midterms, but they're still important, very important. It's important that we don't lose the House or Senate nationally. We need to We need to turn out the vote there. We'll need a lot of help with that.
And in the state, so there's different ways to get involved. We're talking about the candidate side here. So if people want to be involved, there's local municipal politics, there's county politics, there's state politics, and there's federal politics. So
all four.
So where you had just so people understand the whole structure. So you had the Iredell GOP, which is local to Iredell County, and then you would have the state party, the NCGOP, and then the RNC nationally. So all individual groups, all moving in the same direction, but all separately funded and running.
Yeah. I think it's so important for people to understand what their politics are. I talk to a lot of people who say, I never get involved in politics. I just work my job. I take care of my mother, or, I have small children. You need to look at your values and figure out what those are and try to match them up with what political stripe you are. There's lots and lots of people living here now who, because their family has been Democratic for generations, and they hear simple phrases like, the Democrats are for the little people. They march in there and they vote Democratic. And they might not realize that there's a whole set of policies and principles that currently go along with each party. And if you're voting on the left, you're voting for things like permitting transgender ideology to be taught in your schools, that your children might be going to school and be being told that your little granddaughter might be being told that she could be a boy, that she needs to think about that. That's the ideology on the left. The ideology on the other side, the Republican side, people are not going for that. They're saying, look, let's don't do this to our children. Let's don't confuse them in this way. Let them grow up like we did, naturally, getting comfortable with themselves. You have to look at your values and try to figure out where you stand. Don't just go in and vote because for generations you've voted in that way.
So do your research, understand who the candidates are, and make your decision. So don't go blindly down the road, is what you're saying.
Right. I'm saying don't just walk in there and vote and not realize what you're voting for or against. So I just think that's real important. People have to start plugging in better, because we're not going to have a good country if people don't vote thoughtfully. It's not, you don't just go in and vote for a name you saw or a party that you thought you were with. You have to vote thoughtfully. You have to do your research.
Right. Vote thoughtfully. Key takeaways from today is get involved, right? So
Right.
even if you're listening and your beliefs are different, take time to listen and talk to both sides, because if you really talk and listen, you'll find out that we have more in common than we don't, than different.
Probably.
But more importantly, locally, especially on the municipal level, we have to work together to get things done, and we can, we'll have the more philosophical arguments as things move out to, state and federal policy. But, just be involved in your community. Take the time. We are all not going to agree on everything, but if we agree on 80 or 90% of it, we're going to make our community stronger and better and make a difference. I want to thank Karen for taking the time to join us today. And
thank you, Brad.
You're welcome. And going into next week is the last week of early voting. I want to remind everyone, please take the time to vote. And there's no excuse that you have a whole week. If you live in a municipality in the listening area or in the state, go vote next week. And if you can't, vote on election day. Because if you don't make your voice heard, it's hard to complain. And it's hard to armchair quarterback everybody else's decision. So get involved. And even if it's not politics, we've had other folks on the show before. Just get involved in your local community. Take the time to learn about. Go to join Rotary. Go take a Citizens Academy.
Volunteer at the hospital.
Volunteer at the hospital. Engage yourself in your community, and you will be surprised. Number one is the way it makes you feel. The people just need to get involved. And for those that do get involved and they understand, it becomes a very tight-knit community, and you watch everybody rise and succeed together. And that's what we need more of. And until people take the time to do it, it's just, armchair, typing comments on social media and complaining.
You'll meet a lot of great people. Like-minded people, and you'll be a part of making your community great.
Yep. And even get involved. And if you disagree, with them, explain why they should agree with you. Don't just use a reason and say, I don't like this person. That's why I'm not involved. Take the time and get to understand everything, all of the details, not just one specific topic. You can't vote on one topic. You need to look at a broader picture. Everybody makes mistakes, right? And you can't say, well, this person did that 30 years ago. Right. But what have they done the last 30 years?
Mm-hmm.
Look at the impact that they've made. So take the time, get involved, and we're at the end of the segment. Again, Karen, thank you so much for joining us today. How do they get in touch with you again? One more time with your cell phone.
704-402-9370. And I'm not the head of anything, but
you will guide them in the right direction.
I will guide people to someone that can help them join a club, come to meetings. I will get the information.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And next week, we will see everyone Beyond the Blueprint, 3 p.m. on Fridays. WSIC, this is Brad Howard, and we will see you next week.
Thanks.